George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Linda Brown-Robinson is the Western Regional Director for the New York State NAACP. Do you see how I did that, Linda?
I see that. But...
And so with that being said, I asked Linda to come on for two things that she's doing. But one is to remember an icon, a pioneer. We lost a giant in New York State, and that's none other than the incomparable Hazel Dukes, yes, who at the age of 92 passed recently. And there's a memorial service actually set for this week. I believe it's going to be, Wednesday of next week.
Yeah, Wednesday of next week, and yes, Tuesday yes. There's some viewing.
Yes, a viewing, right? So by the time people see or hear this, it's going to be Wednesday the 12th for the services and the 11th for the viewing, and I'm sure that Harlem is going to turn up and turn out.
Absolutely.
So Linda, for those who don't know who she is, number one, she told you that you were going to be Western Regional Director. Remember your mentor. Talk to me.
She actually did. She called me one day, because if anybody knows President Hazel Nell Dukes, they know that you don't tell her no. That probably really wasn't in her vocabulary. So she called me one day, and it actually wasn't. She talked to me about it, George, but it wasn't until we were all on a Zoom call, the whole state conference, anybody that attended. She says, Linda will be the Western Region Director. And I'm sitting there, my mouth is wide open, my eyes are wide open, and Van is on the Zoom from his office at home. And he goes, Linda, close your mouth. Hazel just asked you. And I'm going, oh my God. So I had no choice but to pivot to saying, yeah. But Hazel, Van, and I have spent her entire NAACP state conference president. She got us involved, and we were involved from the moment she was state conference president within that same year. So we've been around her. She was truly a Mama Dukes. She truly was.
Tell us about who she was as an individual and the legacy that she leaves.
Let me just tell you, as much as Hazel would praise you, she would tell you what you did wrong. She would tell you what you did right. And you dared not say anything, but you knew that her heart and her head was always in the same spot. And no matter what she verbally said to you, she still valued you, because she doesn't keep her soldiers around her unless they support her wholly and solely. So I wouldn't be where I was on an NAACP level, and I wouldn't be where I am on any other level without the tutelage of Hazel Nell Dukes.
What did she teach you?
Even though she didn't always do it, but she would always say, we don't always have the same opinion, and we'll get there. We may get there in different paths, but we're all going to get there. And so she taught me before, and she may not have always followed this, but give it a minute, think about it, and then react. And basically that's the same thing my husband has always taught me, don't pull the trigger too fast. And she didn't always follow that, but the outcomes always came, and she knew she was right, and you knew she was right. In fact, at a press conference, since I'm born and raised downstate New Yorker, and you know that, George, we come from the same area. There was a press conference, and I watched New York One, Spectrum New York One, every day. And Hazel, about 2 months ago, was at a press conference, and we could not hear what the reporter asked us. She lit into that reporter, whomever they were, don't know whether they were male or female. And I bet you if she was alive another 5 or 10 years, that reporter would never disrespect Hazel by asking her the question he asked. And we don't know what the question, because all we got was her fiery answer saying, don't you talk to me, and don't you ask me a question like that. And everybody was like, whoa, okay, come on, Hazel. And this was just It had to do with, I think, Mayor Adams, because they were on their way into Gracie Mansion.
Mm.
So Hazel has taught us all. And if anybody denies that Hazel didn't teach them some kind of lesson, some kind of every day, some kind of every week, some kind of every month, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong with them.
Here's what Chuck Schumer said. Dr. Hazel Dukes was an icon to so many New Yorkers. Head of the NAACP New York State Conference, she fought so hard for civil rights and the causes she believed in. I'm praying for Hazel, her family, and everyone who knew and loved her. And that's United States Senator Chuck Schumer. And that's just one of the many tributes that have come in from Reverend Al Sharpton to anyone and everyone. She is remembered. Like, you may not have known, but you heard her name, right? You may have not have known her personally, but you heard her name. And we were blessed. Actually, didn't you have her, didn't she join us on a call, one of the calls, Linda?
Yes, we have. And in fact, during the pandemic, she virtually was one of our presenters. So Hazel would make herself available, George, to anyone who asked. Unless she had a conflict, Hazel never said no to any of her branches. Not only was she New York State president, but she was also the head of the National NAACP board. So she didn't just come with New York State cred. She came with national cred, and she was chair of all of our, many of our, I should say, our national conventions. She held many, many seats.
Mm.
Uh, she is going to be sorely, sorely missed.
She had a certain gravitas with her, obviously, and she,
Mhm.
when people called, when she called, they picked up the phone and they answered. And again, I didn't know her personally, but I always heard about her she was a fighter. Like, she was a fighter, and she was not afraid to represent the interests of Black folk in particular, right? Unequivocally and unabashedly.
Mhm.
Say it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, uh, she fought hard for everybody.
Mm.
And she didn't back down from anybody. Um, when Van first became president
Mhm.
of the Syracuse branch, apparently the previous president booked a convention here in Syracuse. And Van didn't know about it until months into his appointment. I think they come in January, and Van didn't find out about it till like April that somebody had booked a convention here.
Mhm.
And Van unknowingly didn't know anybody, booked this high-ranking state official in a hotel in Carrier Circle.
Mm.
And Hazel cussed Van out in her bra and slip and panties. And so and somebody said, Van, did you take it? Van said, I did. And well, what do you mean? You let her? Van said, listen, you obviously don't know Hazel Dukes. Yes, I took care of it. And when he took care of it, the man actually wanted to stay at Carrier Circle and look at himself on the mirrors on the ceiling of the hotel. But Hazel will fight for anybody she feels is doing the right for the rights of people in the state, in the country. And that was just Hazel Nell Dukes. I can't say enough. Did
Mm.
she always love me? Did I always love her? No, but we always knew she was fighting on our behalf. So I wonder if we'll have a warrior like that ever again. And I will tell you, she passed away, but just 2 or 3 days prior to that, she was at the national board meeting that took place
Mm.
over New York State caucus weekend. She was in New York, and she
Mm.
was right there in her board seat. And then 3 days later, and sadly, her birthday is March 17th.
Mm. She had
So
one. She has her son Ronald shared the news with the nation, right, and community. Talking to Linda Brown-Robinson, Western Region Director for the NAACP, on the passing of the iconic New York State director and former chair of the NAACP National Board, Hazel Dukes, who passed away at the age of 92. Remembrance services in New York City this coming week, where she will be remembered for her fight. And again, you name it, there's probably an award that she's received from everybody. But I wanted to give you some space, Linda, because
I want to just say
yeah.
one more thing. We had a all branch call 2 nights ago, Sunday night, and our chairman of the board, Leon Russell, and our Derek Johnson, our national president, and two of our national board members who represent New York State, all gave tribute to Hazel on our all unit call this past Sunday night.
That's awesome, and we should remember her. And I'm sure that there will be some lasting legacy that will befit her as the days and months to come. And another role that you have, New York State is studying the issue of reparations, and you're on that committee representing our district, if you will, upstate. What can you say about the work of that committee and what they're looking at?
Well, I'm actually representing all the legislators, our governor and our senator and our assembly person, Hasty and Andrea Stewart Cousins. Each had 3 representatives that they could pick for this commission. I and 2 other people, one myself from Syracuse, where there's a gentleman from Buffalo, and one from New York City area. We were chosen by Kathy Hochul, Governor Kathy Hochul. I was very surprised that I was selected. I didn't even know there was a process. Van and I were vacationing last winter, and I got a call. And so, I've learned over the years, you don't say no to powerful people, which is why you don't say no to Hazel, and you're not going to say no to our governor. And so last night we actually had one of our calls, and we're doing them monthly. And I can share the links for some of our commission hearings so that you can join in remotely. But we're doing great work. I guess our hands tied a little bit is because we got sort of a late start. We're mostly up to speed, but we need our legislature before they go home for their summer break, that they need to pass legislation so that we can keep on doing reparations for the state of New York and come up with some feasible, resolutions to what people want. And if we don't get that, I don't know what happens, because we're supposed to end at the end of the session in whenever the end of the session is, was it May or June?
So this appointment, and let me just back up for a minute, Linda, because I kind of went right to the point. So it's the New York State Community Commission on Reparations Remedies, and they're charged with examining the legacy of slavery, subsequent discrimination against people of African descent, and the impact these forces continue to have in present day. And so this was chartered by Governor Hochul via legislation. But you're saying for your work to continue, as you were just mentioning, the legislature has to act to make sure that both houses, I guess, have to act to make sure that the work continues?
Yes, indeed, because as I said, we're scheduled to end, and we have not ironed out every single thing. We have not given, and what we feel have not given people of the state of New York, the people of color, the resolution I think they need, they should have, they deserve. And so we're asking for an extension, some X amount of months. If it has to go into the next year, then so be it. So we need the Senate and the Assembly to pass an extension so we can keep on doing the work, and we bring it to a resolution so that the New Yorkers of color can get what we have fought for many, 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 many years.
Well, I'm going to correct you on that. It says New Yorkers of African descent. Okay, so I
Okay,
just want to be.
African descent.
That's what it says.
But you know what? And that is one of the issues,
Right,
because how do you determine that
right,
without blood tests? I can say that
right,
supposing I've
right,
got
right,
white blood
right,
in
right,
me, or
right, right,
anything else. So that's something that is an ongoing. I don't mind saying this, George, but that's an ongoing
right,
discussion.
right.
Who gets this? How do we determine that?
Right. And then this you heard of all the movements, there's the foundational Black Americans who come from the legacy, and then those who have migrated to this country, are they eligible because they're African, so there's all of that, right? But their legacy may not be from slavery in the United States. So there's also that, right? So
Right.
lots
And
of
then you have mixed family members,
right.
where you have somebody that maybe came from the Caribbean and maybe came from Africa. So and we're not getting into people's lineage. So how do you determine that
Is
without
it,
doing that?
but is that a conversation you guys are having at the commission? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And since they're all over the state, we get some similar questions, not asked in the same manner, but it all comes back to the same thing. How do you decide that? Because we're not just going to one locale. We take this on the road, and
Yeah.
it can go from Buffalo to Long Island.
And in fact, I just looked on the website. The next meeting is scheduled for April 10th in the Bronx. So, like you said, and you can watch the hearings live. There are links. We'll share that. But if what if your work doesn't conclude? Like, what if the legislation? So, do you need communities to call and ask for this, to call our representatives and make sure that this work continues?
I was getting there, but
Come,
you beat me
well,
to it, so
well,
that's
get there.
okay.
Talk to me, Linda. Give me some
Yes,
instructions.
yes. And you know what? It's been said, you call your own legislators, but if it means calling some other legislators that are not in your area, contact them all and tell them the importance of this. And they don't have to look like you and me.
Hmm.
You, we elected them and we put them in their seat, and we can take them out of their seat.
And again, this is the Commission on Studying Reparations Remedies here in New York State. Other states have done it. And have other states, I know California studied it.
California.
I believe some communities in Illinois, I
Right.
believe, have also looked into it. And there have been some remedies that have been put forward, I believe. But and I believe in one community they like, I forgot, but there have been some remedies in some communities. What have you what seems to work?
California spent years trying to do this, years, and we were expected to do it in basically months. Um, I know that probably Governor Hochul would like this wrapped up tightly with a nice bow on it by the end of her term, and into her next term. But I think she wants to wrap this up so she can talk about this on the campaign trail.
And next
Um,
is her election, is it
she
2020, this year or
she
next year?
This is 2026. She
Yeah,
runs November 2026,
yeah,
and
yeah.
her new term would begin in 27 of
27.
January.
Right. And she's already been elected once, even after the appointment. So as lieutenant governor. All right. So the question that I have finally, Linda, is how does this conversation survive this current anti everything that seems to be a remedy, affirmative action, DEI, all of that? How does this conversation, has the commission studied and talked about this current environment and the impact of these conversations, or is that independent of that?
That we have not talked about that. Um, and I don't know if this is the forum, but I will tell you I'm a trustee for ESF, and I'm on the DEI committee, and that has come up with trying to hire a new, diversity officer. Um, this discussion is going on, should go on, needs to go on in this current climate. I don't know if I have enough bandwidth to figure it all out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that any of us quite do. And if somebody has a solution to this, we all don't know where this is going. And the current administration, national administration, has it out for New York State.
Mm-hmm.
So George, you're asking a question that I probably do not have an answer to. And if I did, I deserve $1 million.
Well, no, I mean, but what I'm really asking is the commission's work isn't like you said, you're having that conversation in your other role, but it's not come up yet in this role on this commission. So we'll wait and see. But
it has come up a
okay.
little bit by people that had testimony last night.
Okay.
That came up by people who were presenters at last night's public hearing in Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
We don't provide answers at that forum. We would provide answers in one of our sessions. So surely, as we wrap up and do close out for one meeting, that will be a topic of discussion. We have one next month. That will probably be an ongoing discussion. How are we going to circumvent, and what do we do if we circumvent it? And how do we accomplish it? I don't know that I have an answer. If you have an answer, send it in.
Well, here's what they can do, though. The New York State Community Commission on Reparations Remedies work is scheduled to end at the end of this current session in the New York State Legislature. So what you can do is call your representative and say you want the work of the Reparations Commission to continue, and you're asking for an extension of their work so that they can complete this study. And you can call any one of your state elected representatives. This is an important conversation that New York State must address, and you're part of that solution. So don't say we didn't tell you what
That's
you
right.
have to do, because what Linda's basically saying is if they don't get this extension, they're going to stop right here and the work will be incomplete. And I know that's not what you want. And so let's keep it moving.
And that's not what any of the 11 of us want. So I say, don't just stop with your area representatives. You move beyond that and you send letters and voice opinions to every single elected official in the state of New York.
Got it. And that's what we need to do. Linda Brown-Robinson is on the New York State Commission for Reparations, New York State Community Commission on Reparations Remedies, right?
Remedies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll put the link to the website there. Appointed by Governor Hochul, the commission was established by legislation in December of 2023. We're hoping that this work continues. Linda also is the Western Region Director of the New York State NAACP, and we spoke about remembering her dear colleague, Ma Dukes, Hazel Dukes, who just passed at the age of 92. Linda, always good to see you.
Thank you, George. Thank you for being a supporter of the NAACP. We appreciate you an awful lot.
And I can proudly say a life member, my sister.
2 thumbs up.
Syracuse Onondaga County chapter.
Absolutely.
Inspiration for the nation.